Welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, where you can also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us live on Channel 10 in Waterford every day on the Media Network of Waterford, and live to tape on Channel 10 in Orion Township and Lake Orion on Orion Neighborhood Television or ONTV. You can also find us on the radio, also in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area and the Troy areas on 88.1 WBFH, the Biff Radio Network, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. Find us online in a number of different places from 10 to noon on our Facebook pages at Civic Center TV 15 and at Lakes FM, and on our website at civiccentertv.com, and for the Michigan Megacast 11 o'clock to noon on My Michigan TV or MyMy at mymytv.com. It's MYMITV.com, where you can learn more about downloading their free MyMyTV apps for your smartphones and smart TVs. All that information is available on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find all of our programs on demand and each individual interview segment as well. Then let's head over to our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have links to the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 from reliable expert resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services at the statewide level, and the Oakland County Health Division here in Oakland County, where we originate our broadcast so that you can stay up to date on everything that you need to know about the spread of COVID-19, precautionary tactics that you may or should be employing in your daily life, and information, of course, on vaccinations and booster shots should you not be vaccinated yet or be in need or qualify for a booster at this time. Also on our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, we feature articles from many journalistic outlets throughout the state of Michigan in order to keep you up to date on COVID-19 and other stories making headlines across the Great Lakes state. Our top story today is from the Detroit Free Press. The United States pledges more Ukrainian aid as President Biden announces a Michigander as ambassador. This is from the Associated Free Press via the Detroit Free Press. Secretary of State, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said Monday after a secrecy-shrouded visit to Kyiv that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is committed to winning his country's fight against Russia and that the United States will help him achieve that goal. Quote, "He has the mindset that they want to win, and we have the mindset that we want to help them win," Austin said to reporters in Poland the day after a 3-hour face-to-face meeting with President Zelensky in Ukraine. Austin said that the nature of the fight in Ukraine had changed now that Russia had pulled away from the wooded northern regions to focus on the eastern industrial regions of the Donbass. Because of the nature of the fight that has evolved, so have Ukraine's military needs, and Zelensky is now focused on more tanks, artillery, and other munitions. Quote, "The first step is winning is believing that you can win," Austin said, continuing on. "We believe that they can win if they have the right equipment and the right support, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure that gets to them," and closed quote. Asked about what the U.S. sees as success, Secretary Austin said, quote, "We want to see Ukraine remain a sovereign country, a democratic country able to protect its sovereign territory. We want to see Russia weaken to the point where it can't do things like invade Ukraine," closed quote. A trip by Blinken and Austin was the highest-level American visit to the capital since Russia invaded in late February. They told Zelensky and his advisors that the United States would provide more than $300 million in foreign military financing and had approved $165 million in sales of ammunition. Quote, "We had the opportunity to demonstrate directly our strong ongoing support for the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian people," Secretary Blinken said, continuing on. "This was, in our judgment, an important moment to be there to have face-to-face conversations in detail," and closed quote. Secretary Blinken said their meeting with the Ukrainians lasted for 3 hours for wide-ranging talks, including what help the country needs in the weeks ahead. Quote, "The strategy that we've put in place, massive support for Ukraine, massive pressure against Russia, solidarity with more than 30 countries engaged in these efforts is having real results. When it comes to Russia's war aims, Russia is failing. Ukraine is succeeding. Russia has sought as its principal aim to totally subjugate Ukraine, to take away its sovereignty, to take away its independence. That has failed," and closed quote. As expected, President Joe Biden announced on Monday his nomination of Bridget Brink to serve as U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. Brink, a career Foreign Service officer and Michigan native, has served since 2019 as the ambassador to Slovakia. She previously held assignments in Serbia, Cyprus, Georgia, and Uzbekistan, as well as with the White House National Security Council. This post requires confirmation, of course, by the United States Senate. The announcement comes as American diplomats prepare to return to Ukraine this coming week, although the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv will remain closed for the time being. Journalists who traveled with Secretaries Austin and Blinken to Poland were barred from reporting on the trip until it was over, were not allowed to accompany them on their overland journey to Ukraine, and were prohibited from specifying where in southeast Poland they met back up with the cabinet members until their return. Officials at the State Department and the Pentagon cited security concerns as the reason for those decisions. Secretaries Austin and Blinken announced a total of $713 million in foreign military financing for Ukraine and 15 allied partner countries. Some $322 million is earmarked specifically for Kyiv. The remainder will be split among NATO members and other nations that have provided Ukraine with critical military supplies since the war with Russia began, officials said. Such financing is different from previous U.S. military assistance to Ukraine. It is not a donation of drawn down U.S. Defense Department stockpiles, but rather cash that countries can use to purchase supplies that they might need. The new money, along with the sale of $165 million in non-U.S. made ammunition that is compatible with Soviet-era weapons that the Ukrainians use, brings the total amount of American military assistance to Ukraine to $3.7 billion since the onset of the invasion. Biden has accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of genocide for the destruction and death wrought in Ukraine. Just on Thursday, Biden said he would provide a new package of $800 million in military aid to Ukraine. That included heavy artillery and drones. Congress approved $6.5 billion for military assistance last month as part of a $13.6 billion spending for Ukraine and allies in response to the Russian invasion. From Poland, Secretary of State Blinken plans to return to Washington, while Austin will be heading to Ramstein, Germany, for a meeting Tuesday of NATO's defense ministers and other donor countries. That decision will look at battlefield updates from the ground, additional security assistance for Ukraine, and longer-term defense needs in Europe, including how to step up military production to fill gaps caused by the war in Ukraine, officials said. More than 20 nations are expected to send representatives to that meeting. Also making headlines on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus from the Detroit News, Upper Peninsula tribes are working to restore wild rice in areas contaminated by mining. Dangerous metals such as arsenic and mercury have been found in wild rice beds located in the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community Reservation and surrounding areas, according to research from Michigan Tech scientists and other associates. The contamination is a toxic level of copper mining in western Upper Peninsula. Samples of sediment, water, and rice were taken from the Lance Bay, located on the reservation, and Lake Plumbago, a nearby inland lake in Baraga County. According to the study published in the journal, quote, Applied Sciences, and close quote, the, quote, uptake of toxic materials by aquatic plants and algae poses a major risk to ecological and human health, and closed quote. Wild rice, known as manumin in the Ojibwa language, is a semi-aquatic wetlands grass that is abundant in the Great Lakes region and an important food source for the Keweenaw Bay Indian community, as well as wildlife and migratory waterfowl. It is also considered a sacred plant to the Anishinaabe tribes in Michigan as well. Beyond the cultural significance of wild rice, it is an important part of the food web in the area, says Scott Heron, a biology professor at Ferris State University. Professor Heron said, quote, all the other parts of the ecosystem depend on the calories, energy, and thus food that wild rice provides to insects, birds, waterfowl, fish, and later to their predators, Heron said. Heavy metals migrate to the grain of rice and can be consumed by the species ingesting it, Heron said. Arsenic was found to have the highest presence in wild rice seed samples from both locations, the study said. Exposure to arsenic through diet can result in higher risk of cancer, as well as liver and kidney disorders, according to the study. Aaron Johnston, a wildlife biologist with the Keweenaw Bay Indian community, said that fortunately, wild rice in 2 test areas has not been ready yet to harvest for human consumption since efforts began to restore it there. The study attributed to the contamination, to the dumping of millions of tons of stamp sand from mining operations into lakes during the copper boom of the early 1900s. Stamp sand is a coarse sand-like material resulting from waste created by the mining industry. Quote, "There are lots of areas throughout this region that are still dealing with legacy mining," Johnston said, continuing on. There was no environmental regulations at that time to hold anyone accountable for the negative environmental impacts. They would take out the portion of the ore they could use, in this case copper, and everything else was considered waste rock and crushed really finely, she said, and closed quote. High levels of heavy metals such as copper, aluminum, and others were found in the wild rice tested by researchers. Quote, "For decades, the tribe has been studying this area to better understand the stamp sands, how they're moving along the shore, and other potential impacts they're having on the landscape," Johnston said. In 2006, the tribe worked to pat down a 6-inch to 10-inch soil cap in an attempt to keep the stamp sands from moving along the Lance Bay lakeshore. Quote, "We continue to battle every year the issue of stamp sand moving because it's located next to Lake Superior and you can't control the weather," said Johnston. Researchers said it's the first such study in an inland lake where wild rice restoration is underway. Johnston said there was some earlier indication that the 19-acre Lake Plumbago had elevated levels of heavy metals, but not to the extent found in the new research. Quote, "Of course, that is, concerning and something we definitely need to look further into," she said. Roger Levin of Trout Creek has a lifelong relationship with wild rice, whether it was working to harvest it back in 1972 or to restore it in the Upper Peninsula today. Quote, "I harvested with my family, my grandparents, and my uncle," he said, "but we had to go to northern Wisconsin to harvest wild rice because the bed in our traditional waters and where our village was destroyed." Levin is a member of the Lakeview Desert Band Lake of Lake Superior Chippewa indigenous tribes, whose reservation on the Gogabit County, about an hour south of the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community Reservation. Levin said wild rice is so important to the tribes in the region, the Ojibwe, the Potawatomi, and the Ottawa, because it was a staple in sustaining life in the area. Quote, "The Three Fires people believed that this was a sacred gift by the Creator and placed in the Great Lakes Basin," he said, and closed quote. The cultural significance is why tribes throughout the state are working to bring back wild rice in its natural habitats. Quote, "I would not want it to be a commercial crop because then you start getting into GMO and hybrid rice," said Levin. That full article with supporting materials, really interesting what is being done in the Keweenaw Bay Indian community and other indigenous communities throughout the state to restore wild rice populations impacted by heavy metal pollution over hundreds of years here in Michigan. Lastly, making headlines on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus from our friends at Bridge, Michigan. Citing cash crunch, Central Michigan University is pausing its new student housing project. Citing economic uncertainty and declining enrollment, the Central University Board of Trustees voted on Thursday to pause plans to develop a 4-building residential complex that would include 179 apartment-style units designed for sophomores, juniors, and seniors, as well as transfer students. The university had already approved $14 million to begin the design phase for the complex called Washington Commons and complete construction of 1 parking lot, renovate 2 others, and demolish some housing that now serves undergraduates and graduate students, including students with families. The board said it plans to reevaluate the housing project by September 30th. According to a draft of the resolution approved on Thursday, reasons for pausing part of the project include, quote, "growing economic uncertainty, current enrollment issues, and reductions which will be needed for the 2022-2023 budget." That is according, of course, to the board of Central Michigan University. So the Washington Commons project it is on pause. So that brings up the question for those that are unfamiliar. What is the Washington Commons project? The project as designed would include 179 units with a total of 412 beds for non-first-year students who wanted to remain on campus. CMU Vice President of Student Relations and Retention, Jennifer DeHamer, said in a February CMU news release, the project is part of the university's efforts to attract new students as well as keep current ones. Quote, "Students had made it clear they are interested in modern, more independent living options," she said in the post, and continued on, quote, "If we do not offer those at CMU, they may seek them elsewhere," and close quote. At Thursday's meeting, one student recommended using a tiered method where the university offers small units are cheaper and then have other options at a higher price, including the original plan for apartment-style living. Long said that idea could have potential. Quote, "We'll continue to refine what we're thinking about when it comes to independent-style living, and then being conscious of the cost implications of housing and living on campus," he said. All board members voted yes on the resolution, which affirms CMU's interest in improving campus housing, but puts it off until later this year in a review of the project. Trustee Todd Anson said the construction of new apartment-style housing is designed to, quote, "meet market-driven needs," and closed quote, continuing on, saying, quote, "I believe that we'll have a bigger, better, more vibrant CMU after we are able to get this project implemented, should we get to that point," he said in that meeting. Some changes will occur regardless of whether the Washington Commons project eventually is approved. Students who are currently living in housing that was set to be demolished will move to other housing options at CMU or have the university help them find similar housing off campus, said Executive Director of Student Affairs Kathleen Gardner. The current housing will close after the local school district's academic year has completed. The parking lot renovations will start in the summer, with construction of a new lot beginning in August, and demolition of the older housing will begin in the fall. It is possible that the full cost of the project will change. CMU currently anticipates completion of the Washington Commons project costing about $121 million. This number could change if leaders choose a different style of housing or if supply or borrowing costs change, which they probably will. Long said the university would need to use bonds to pay for the project, and he anticipates there will be higher interest rates in the future. You can read that entire article. We gave you part of it. The full article is linked on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as those ever helpful links on COVID-19 info from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. Boy, do we have a program here for you on Monday today on this edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up next, Angela Beckman and Tanya Adair from the United Way of Southeastern Michigan will join us. And then at 10:40, singer-songwriter Michaela Prue will join us for an interview and play a song as well. That's all up next on the Oakland County Megacast.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you. Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation. Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
Joining us now is Angela Beckman and Tanya Adair from the United Way for Southeastern Michigan. Angela, Tanya, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Good to have you both with us today. So we'll start with you, Angela. Can you first tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with the United Way?
Yeah, so I am a licensed social worker by trade. I'm born and raised in Southeastern Michigan, and I couldn't think of a better way to get involved in the community than working for United Way and getting the opportunity to work with our community partners, our nonprofit partners, and individuals and corporations in the area to really volunteer and get involved in making a difference in our area.
And Tanya, same question for you. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with the organization.
Absolutely. I am a lifelong educator. I spent 25 years in the education arena as a teacher. Starting off as a teacher, I was a high school principal and then chief academic officer for a district out of town, and worked closely with United Way there on many projects. So being able to come to Michigan and serve Southeastern Michigan and through United Way, working with partners and school districts and families and providing the necessary resources to ensure families are able to thrive was really important to me. So I'm glad to be here. I've been here since 2018.
Angela, going back to you, this April 2022 is the Global Volunteer Month. This week, we're just about to wrap up tomorrow, the National Volunteer Week. Can you tell us about both of those, the National Week and the Global Month of Service, and how the United Way of Southeastern Michigan is tapping into that recognition and encouraging volunteerism in Southeastern Michigan?
Yeah, so we are really excited. April is our Global Month of Service, and Michigan just highlighted that as well for the first time this year. We are, as you mentioned, wrapping up National Volunteer Week, which is taking place started April 17th through the 23rd. And so it really is our community really year round is involved, but a National Volunteer Week allows us to really highlight volunteerism, both for our community partners and the needs that are there, as well as the opportunity for individuals to get involved and recognize those who've been getting involved year round. So this week we've had a wide variety of activities taking place, from things you could do from home, like packing a kit, or collecting items with your neighbors and friends to donate to a local nonprofit, or going in, helping to serve food at one of our local nonprofits, or packing and delivering food as well. We also have a very exciting this time, for the first time this year, working on highlighting and recognizing our volunteers. So we have our volunteer honor roll. So that is also up this week as well. So we do this year round. So this is a great opportunity for us to highlight what those people in our community are doing year round, but really recognizing it during April.
And Angela, just how important is the work of these volunteers to our community organizations like the United Way, but also other organizations that United Way of Southeastern Michigan may partner with or may be adjacently involved with?
Yeah, so volunteers, and as we always say, the time, talents, and treasures that they bring to an organization are crucial to help them achieve things that they might not be able to. Things like providing items or services that they might not be able to do because of budgets. And one of the things that we've learned, especially through this pandemic and through the last couple of years, is that we really need to depend on our community and neighbors to help us get through a wide variety of things. And so when you think about helping, it isn't just about our nonprofits and our other organizations, but it's just reaching out to your neighbors and supporting them in ways that's something you can provide them through your time, talents, and treasures that they may need. So everything from just spending time with them, as well as giving of items, or supporting painting and beautifying and getting out in the community. You know, it's supposed to be getting warmer here in Michigan. And so there's a lot of opportunities to get out and really come together and beautify the neighborhoods.
We're joined by Angela Beckman, the Senior Director of Engagement at the United Way for Southeastern Michigan on the Michigan Megacast. We're also joined by Tanya Adair, the Chief People, Equity, and Engagement Officer for the United Way of Southeastern Michigan. And so, Tanya, the United Way works with a variety of different groups in Southeastern Michigan, different organizations, certainly different individuals and volunteers that work for these organizations, with these organizations, or in partnership with these organizations. Can you talk about the United Way's focus on engaging the community and with a diverse group of different people, different organizations, and the impact that they can have on Southeastern Michigan?
Absolutely. United Way has served Southeastern Michigan for more than 100 years through all types of crisis situations, large and small. Our mission really is to mobilize the caring power of Detroit and Southeastern Michigan to improve communities and individuals' lives in measurable and lasting ways. We partner with the community-based organizations, providing resources to support children and families that help them to meet their basic needs. We also provide resources to partner agencies and schools to help build a solid safety net for children and families, particularly for those who may be struggling to make ends meet. We live by our motto of give, advocate, and volunteer, mobilizing individuals, corporate organizations, and community partners to provide that safety net to support those in need. Volunteering itself helps everyone. Those who volunteer feel a sense of purpose. When you can come together with friends and coworkers and groups to volunteer, you build that camaraderie while living out a meaningful opportunity to help someone in need. And so we've been doing this work and working with our partners on the ground, and really is just fulfilling a purpose for so many and helping those that are in need. And it's so important, especially now coming through COVID, to make sure that we are helping to rebuild and build back better, as it's explained, all of the resources that's needed for those that are struggling.
And let's continue on that, Tanya, as we are beginning to slowly come out of the pandemic. It seems things are slowing down. Case numbers are slowing down. society's kind of reopening and preparing itself for what life after COVID-19 or after the pandemic of COVID-19 at least sounds like. And so as you're working with these organizations, as the United Way for Southeastern Michigan is partnering with these organizations and really working to rebuild those community ties, talk to us about just how important it is to strengthen community engagement in these organizations and just general community engagement, especially coming out of a pandemic.
Absolutely. Especially coming out of a pandemic is right, because we struggled through it and we weren't able to have, as many people that could be in person and volunteer, but we came up with so many other ways that people can volunteer that's not in person, but we also offer in-person opportunities now. But particularly, as I said before, having that sense of purpose, it makes everyone be able to feel like I'm able to help build my community in so many ways. Everyone may not have the dollars to be able to just give towards something that people in need, but you can volunteer. Everyone can volunteer. Everyone can lean in a certain way, whether it's virtual kit making, do-it-yourself kits that we provide an opportunity for and be able to drop it off at a location, or coming together with your colleagues or friends and family to do a book drive, even to be able to support the education arena and helping kids have books in their hands, to be able to go to Gleaners and do food packing, because there's so much need within our community, within Southeastern Michigan, and so many opportunities for people to weigh in to support those needs. It's important for people to feel like that I'm able to give back in some way.
We're joined by Tanya Adair, Chief People Equity and Engagement Officer for the United Way for Southeastern Michigan. Joining us on the Michigan Megacast, also with us, is Angela Beckman, the Senior Director of Engagement for the United Way for Southeastern Michigan. And so, Angela, as we talk about community engagement and we talk about getting back into society and reacclimating different elements of our society, of our communities in Southeastern Michigan in order to strengthen those communities, especially coming out of several years of division, of isolation. What are some volunteer opportunities that are available if people want to get back involved in the community, want to make a positive impact, especially during the global month of volunteerism on the worldwide level, and even as we wrap up this week for National Volunteer Week here domestically? What are some opportunities available in Southeastern Michigan if people would like to volunteer and help their community?
Yeah, definitely. We have our online volunteer portal, so you can go to unitedwaysem.org, click on Get Involved Volunteer, and we have a wide variety, as Tanya mentioned, everything from in-person opportunities where you can get out into the community, from opportunities to do virtual volunteerism, skill-based volunteerism, donation drives, really is a wide variety of opportunities. That's also, our community partners can go there as well. So not only if our community wants to volunteer, but you're in need of having volunteers at your organization, or you want to provide opportunities for people to come out and support your nonprofit or community organization, you can go there as well. We are also excited as we head into the summer looking at opportunities to support, as Tanya mentioned, book drives, as well as back to school opportunities. So you'll see a lot of those as well as we think about our little free library program or back to school and backpacks. So those are the types of opportunities that you can find on our website. And there's a wide variety of ways to get involved. So we definitely encourage that for the first stop shop, they say, for finding opportunities and connecting to get involved in your neighborhood.
And it's also a great resource for finding ways to get involved in your neighborhood, not necessarily in volunteer ways, but just in engaging with the community, getting back into community events that may have a positive impact on the region of Southeastern Michigan or on your specific community. So so Tanya, going back to you, what are some upcoming events that if people are interested in getting back out in the community and they would like to join their friends, their family, their neighbors in Southeastern Michigan, maybe even meet some of these people that they haven't met before because they've been here isolated for a few years with COVID-19 going on? What are some events that are coming up in Southeastern Michigan?
Yeah, as Angela mentioned, there are several that are coming up. One of them is us being able to come together and build little free libraries in communities where books are scarce. That's one opportunity, but you can find so many more on our website. www.unitedwaysem.org, and navigate toward the volunteer section. There are so many different opportunities that will be coming up. You can get together with friends and, as I mentioned before, do a food packing kit. We also will have this summer a backpack kit, packing backpacks for back to school. That will be coming up as well. But there are others that will happen, throughout the summer that we want to make sure that you're going to that website and volunteering, signing up to volunteer to be a part of those events.
And Angela, if people want to find more opportunities throughout the year to volunteer in their community, to volunteer in Southeastern Michigan with organizations partnering with the United Way, how can they go about doing that?
Yep, they can go to unitedwaysem.org. They can sign up on our volunteer portal so they can see what they're interested in. You also have the opportunity to kind of create a profile. So as new things get added that meet your interests, we definitely encourage folks to go there. As well as looking at our website, we have our 21-day equity challenge coming up. So that'll be taking place on May 20th through June 17th. And Tanya can speak a little bit more on that as well, but we're really excited about that opportunity. So not only to volunteer, but to get involved and really to learn together as a community as we continue to navigate the world that continues to change.
Yeah, and Tanya, before we let the two of you go today, I would like to give you an opportunity, as Angela said, to talk about the Equity Challenge 2022. It is a 21-day challenge set for May 20th through June 17th. You can sign up for this at United Way SEM, or United Way for Southeastern Michigan, unitedwaysem.org. Tanya, can you tell us about Equity Challenge 2022?
Absolutely. It's 21 days of learning. Everyone is in a different place in their equity journey, and we want to make sure that we are addressing all of those places and spaces where people are. So people can sign up to be a part of the 21-day Equity Challenge. You'll get a daily email providing information just on the inequities that have occurred over time throughout the country, as well as right here in Southeastern Michigan. And then there's a opportunity for Friday roundtable discussions. So each Friday, after you've gone through the emails and read the articles and watched the videos, there's an opportunity to come together on Friday to talk about what you've experienced with many others across the community. Last year, we had more than 5,000 people sign up for the challenge, and each one of those Friday sessions were packed with more than 200 individuals just really engaging in what we've learned, and then making commitments within ourselves to make some changes and to learn more and offer our support and help throughout the community to make sure that we're addressing inequities in a way that is impactful and meaningful to the community. So I'm excited about the 21-day Equity Challenge. As Angela mentioned, it's going to be an amazing experience.
You can learn more information on unitedwaysem.org. If you go there right now, you'll be able, right away when you get there, a pop-up will appear for the 21-day Equity Challenge. It allows you to sign up and learn more information. And then you can keep up to date on everything happening with the United Way for Southeastern Michigan at unitedwaysem.org. Tanya, Angela, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM. Joining us now on the program is Michaela Prue, a local Oakland County singer-songwriter and a contestant in the Miss Oakland County competition as well. Michaela, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So first of all, obviously for those that are watching on the TV side and on the website, the radio, they can't see, you are wearing a crown.
I am.
Now, you're not just being extra.
No.
You've earned that crown. Tell us about that process. Where did you earn the crown, and how was that whole ordeal for you?
Yes, so I'm Miss Oakland County USA currently, and the state pageant for the Miss Michigan USA title is at the end of the month in May, which is super exciting. So I actually found out I won in Texas, which was insane. I was in Austin, Texas for the South by Southwest West Festival. And because of COVID, the pageant went a little differently and a lot of things were virtual. So I got a call from the director in Austin and they're like, hey, you won Miss Oakland County. So that was super exciting. So I came home and got a crown. The sash hasn't come in yet because of COVID and the delays in shipping and everything, but I'm wearing a crown and being extra, like Tyler said. But it is so exciting, and I advocate food allergy awareness and education. So what I do in the Miss USA competition is I personally have food allergies. I'm allergic to peanuts and tree nuts, and a lot of the labeling that is a part of the FDA isn't very user-friendly for people who have allergies. So if you ever look on a package, like a label, and it says like made in the same facility or made on the same equipment or may contain, those are all voluntary statements. And those are statements that people with allergies look for. And the fact that they're voluntary by companies is insane, because that is a life or death situation for somebody. So with my title, I'm advocating food allergy awareness and education to eventually change labeling on packaging to make the world a safer place for people with allergies. And I partnered up with the nonprofit Red Sneakers for Oakley, who's a national nonprofit based out of Florida. And they do a lot of fundraising, a lot of events to raise allergy awareness. So it's really nice to team up with them and advocate it.
And so when you do compete in May at the national level, you have one at the county level. Is it then, I'll skip back a step. Is there now a state competition, or do you go straight to the national level representing Oakland County, one of Michigan's 83 counties?
Yeah, so the pageant in May is the state. And then if you win that, then you go to nationals.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what sort of difference does that competition, from your knowledge, does that pageant have from the Oakland County's pageant? And how do you then prepare yourself for the statewide pageant versus the preparation that went into the Oakland County pageant?
So they're very the same. It's a lot of the same prep, same things. So the state pageant is definitely really sharpening your skills. It's sharpening your interview skills. It's sharpening your public speaking skills. It's sharpening what you advocate for. So it's really a way to figure out how you want to portray yourself. So at the local competition, obviously it's a smaller group of people. And then once you get to the state, it's everyone in the state of Michigan. So it's going from competing just with girls in Oakland County to girls in the entire state. So it's really just developing your confidence, developing your skills that can really push you to potentially go to the national level.
So you're also a musician. You're a singer-songwriter, and you're also now competing in pageants. Which one came first? And if it was music, what then drew you to pageantry?
So music definitely came first. I started performing from the age of 4, and I did musicals. I did a lot of acting. So I went to West Bloomfield schools growing up, and I actually, in my 8th grade year in Abbott Middle School, which I don't think is going to be Abbott Middle School anymore. I think they're closing that down, which makes me sad. But it's great that they're developing a new middle school. It's incredible. But I was Sharpay in High School Musical, which for the 8th grade show is really fun. But I've done a lot of other local pageants and musical theater growing up. So I was in the Miss America organization, and I still compete in the Miss America organization. And with that, you have a talent. So I've always sang, I've always written songs. And so I developed a new outlet to be able to sing and perform my music. I found out about pageants, and I was like, hey, people can hear my voice this way and hear my songs this way. Might as well do it. And it's helped me develop as a person too, being able to present myself and being able to speak to people, and definitely build up a stage presence when you go on stage, and you have to be your own person to compete.
We're joined by Michaela Prue, singer-songwriter and also a pageant model, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is currently 2022 Miss Oakland County USA. The state competition will be happening in May. You're also a singer-songwriter and an award-nominated singer-songwriter at that as well. You were nominated in the 2022 Detroit Music Awards for a number of different categories, including Outstanding Country Artist, Outstanding Country Song, and Outstanding Songwriter. You mentioned that you began performing about 4 years old, and music was that first great interest in performance for you. How has that developed over time? I would imagine it began as something that was a bit of a curiosity, being that you were 4 years old and you're just garnering that interest. Where did it then become a passion for you?
When I was younger, I feel like music has always been a passion, just even from a young age. I always wanted to be in theater. I always wanted to be on the stage. I always wanted to be singing. We really started to realize that I had a talent. Well, my mom did when I was little, and we were in the grocery store, and you know those carts that have the cars on the front of them, and the little kids drive in the cars. So I was singing in one of those cars, and just in the grocery store. I was 4, I was young, and a lady comes around the aisle and looks at my mom and goes, "Is that her?" And my mom goes, "Yeah, that's her." She goes, "I'm a vocal coach." She goes, "If she's still singing like that when she's 8, you need to get her in vocal training, and you need to get her out there." So, if she's still into it. And I was into it. I loved doing it growing up. I love songwriting. That was always something that I've always done. It's been really cathartic for me. It's a good outlet for me to express me and my emotions. So using that as a songwriter, it became a passion very, very quickly. And it's a lifestyle basically at this point.
And so now you are continuing to develop songs. You've written multiple songs in recent years. You've recorded these songs, and you've even collaborated with some music dynamos in the industry. You collaborated with Snoop Dogg's bass player and a Detroit music legend in T Money Green. Where did that relationship develop?
So, I host a show with him. It's called Hyped Up Live Sessions Next Generation. And what we do with that show is it's a series continuation off of his original show, Hyped Up Live Sessions. So the Next Generation is promoting local talent from the Metro Detroit area. We look for people kind of 29 and under, which is the new generation of music, to come on and show their talent and show their original music. If they're a band, singer, songwriter. So if any of you out there, if that's you or you know somebody out there, please feel free to contact me. And so I met him on a set for a music video, actually. Okay. And I went up to him and I go, "Hi, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a musician." My mom and I talked to him, gave him my flyer, and he goes, "I really like you. Let's make a show." Because I've always wanted to do something of developing young talent in Detroit, because growing up as a young talent here in Metro Detroit, the music industry is very hard, and it is very hard to get yourself heard, and it is very hard for you to even get out there. So especially having somebody like Tony, for you to go on a show with his platform, with his connections and his people watching, and go on and perform, it's a huge outlet and a huge opportunity. And I'm so blessed for it, and I'm so glad that I can give back to the community, and he can as well, to develop young artists here. And
let's talk more about that, about developing those other artists too. I mean, you are just 19, so you are yourself a young artist in this industry as well. But you've had that support from Tony, from T Money Green, and you've had that support in the industry, and you've kind of seen a little bit of it firsthand that maybe some other musicians that are coming up that are of your age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, haven't seen. So for you, as both a musician and just as somebody that has gone through this process yourself, how does that play into your desire to do this show and to have that platform with Tony to support the next generation of musicians that are coming in with you and those that will be after you?
Yeah, so in the industry, so I'm the only musician in my family, and so when you don't really have those music connections already, it is very hard when you are first starting out. And so growing up and in the music industry, it's very about getting yourself out there and being able to walk up to somebody and say, "Hi, I'm a singer-songwriter. Want to listen to my things, or can you help me?" It's a big opportunity to be able to go and perform anywhere. If you are able to perform on a stage anywhere you are, take it, because that is the way for you to get heard. That's a way for you to build your stage presence. If you're scared, do it scared. I have to do it scared sometimes, depending on what it is. You know, everyone has nerves. Everyone gets nervous, and it's just a matter of being confident in yourself and knowing that you can do it, because it's possible for anybody. It's very discouraging sometimes when you see other people and you're like, "Man, I don't think I'll ever get there. I don't think I can ever do that." But the reality is anybody can do it if you just work hard enough and just try to get yourself out there as much as possible.
And I would imagine too, especially in an industry as competitive as music and as competitive in a broader sense as entertainment, that developing those strong connections with people that are already in the industry in a more advanced position, people like Tony, and other musicians that are working their way into the industry is also very important in developing and honing your own craft, but also building your career.
100%. You have to be very sure of what you want, and obviously take pointers from other people. If someone suggests something, listen to it and develop what you want to develop. And if they have a good idea that you like, then add it into it. But sometimes people want to change what you want to do. Sometimes people want to make you into something that you necessarily don't want to be. And my advice personally is you will succeed if you are doing what you want to do versus what someone else tells you to do. If you are loving what you're doing, if you're passionate about what you're doing, and I believe that you should make music that you're proud of and that make music that makes you happy versus what someone else tells you will make people happy. So that's a big thing in the industry, is just being steadfast in who you are and what you want to create.
We're joined by Michaela Prue, a singer-songwriter from the Oakland County area, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. If you'd like to learn more information, or if you yourself are a musician and would like to be on her program with Tony T. Money Green, Hyped Up Live Sessions Next Generation, the email to get in contact with them is hypeduplivesessionsnextgen@gmail.com. That's hypeduplivesessionsnextgen@gmail.com. And so, Michaela, let's dive more into your music. You have a lot of music that's already been out. You're working on a new EP called Yeehaw, and several other new pop genre songs as well. You have a couple that have already been out or are coming out soon. Let's talk first about your song Gone.
Yes. So I wrote that song, I don't know if some people may remember, about eight years ago, I think. There was a boating accident on Sylvan Lake with the Mansour family. Adriana Mansour, she graduated high school last year at WB 2021, and gosh, she's amazing. And so I'm very close with the Mansour family. Her mom's my godmom. Okay. And I wrote the song Gone about her losing her three kids. So two kids, Alex and Gabby, and then Adriana being in the hospital. So how I wrote that is she has a page on Instagram where she writes about kind of her grieving process and what comes to her mind. And I was reading through the page and I was like, man, this would be a really good song for her. I just really wanted to make something for her because I know that when you're going through a specific time, a lot of people go through music to try and find something that resonates with them to help them get through it and kind of put their words into another platform. And so I wrote that for her, and I played it to her for the first time, and she goes, "You don't know how long I've looked for a song that embodies everything I feel, and I have one now." And sadly, Gone has come into a lot of play with COVID and people losing family members, friends, relatives. I've sang it at a few funerals, which was very hard, but it's very nice to talk to the families and see how my song is helping them get through a time. It's kind of a magical thing, hearing about how your music and your thoughts can impact somebody else in such a big way, which is mainly why I love to songwrite, because you help people with their emotions that sometimes people can't even put into words. So it's very giving, and it's very also receiving for me, because it makes me happy to see other people like my music.
We're joined by Michaela Prue, a singer-songwriter and also 2022's Miss Oakland County USA, with a statewide competition for Miss Michigan USA coming up in May. Joining us on the Oakland County Megacast, and you have another song, Fake Friends, which we'll have you perform for us in just a moment here. Tell us about the song first, and then we will have your mom, who has your guitar back there, bring that up to you and have you perform for us.
Cool, yeah. So I wrote Fake Friends in high school, and it's about fake friends, believe it or not. But it's about, I think it resonates with a lot of people throughout every stage of their life, not only just high schoolers and young kids, because I believe everyone has come into contact with fake friends and people that you think are there for you and end up not being there for you. And a lot of the times when you start doing your career, like I've noticed with music, people that you thought would be there for you are not really there. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but at the same time, it's a really good life lesson. And I wrote Fake Friends to try and help people all through stages of life who do have fake friends, know that they're not alone and know that they can get through it, and all they need is really the love of themselves. So that song is a single. I have 4 singles out right now. So I've Gone, Prince, Fake Friends, and Mine. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, I'm releasing the EP Yeehaw, and that's going to be more country pop music. Okay. And I'm going to be releasing that towards the end of May. And then after that, like you said, I'm going to go more towards a pop genre because I really like to broaden my sound. I don't really want to put myself in one lane. I think it's very cool to experiment with what you can do, and I enjoy all types of music. So since I enjoy all types of music, I want to make all types of music. And so I really want my music to resonate with all different types of people and whatever genres they listen to, as well as genres that I like to listen to. So the first EP I wanted to do is country pop because that's what I always wanted to do growing up. My first thing, I always wanted it to be country pop. I listened to that growing up. And then now that I'm older and my songwriting has developed and me as an artist has developed, which my production and what ideas I have, that goes more in the more pop, dance, hyper pop realm. So I'm very excited for that and very excited for people to hear it.
So we'll have you go ahead and play Fake Friends for us so people can hear the song now. And again, I'll reset while Michaela gets herself ready over there. We're joined by Michaela Prue. She is from the Oakland County area, West Bloomfield, Waterford, currently a White Lake resident. She is also the 2022 Miss Oakland County USA. That state competition, she'll be competing for Miss Michigan USA coming up in May. And so we'll keep up to date on that. She's also the co-host of Hyped Up Live Session Next Generation with Snoop Dogg's bass player and Detroit musical legend Tony T Money Green. You can learn more information, and if you're a musician or know a musician that would be good for that show or would like to talk to Michaela and talk to T Money, you can email them hypeduplivesessionsnextgen@gmail.com. That's hypeduplivesessionsnextgen@gmail.com. You can find Michaela and her music on YouTube, on Spotify, on YouTube Music, and on Pandora as well. And one of the songs you'll hear on all of those different platforms is one of her singles, Fake Friends. Michaela.
Thank you. So this is Fake Friends. You can find it on all music streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, and I'm so glad to play it for you today. So this is the acoustic stripped down version.
Where were you when I needed you? I'm sorry, excuse, why wasn't I invited to? My heart is black and blue. Feeling numb, where did I go wrong? Feeling like I don't belong. 4 years never felt so long. 'Cause I'm tired of all these fake friends. Don't need any one of them. It's just me and the end. I don't need these fake friends. I don't need them. I don't need them. I don't need these fake friends. I don't need them. I catch my breath. Let's hang. I can't. Where's my mistake? My heart, I feel it break. I say I miss you. You say I'll see you soon. But where are you? I try to breathe with no air, but they don't even seem to care. This is so not fair. I'm tired of all these fake friends. Don't need any one of them. It's just me in the end. I don't need these fake friends. I don't need them. I don't need them. I don't need these fake friends. My BFFs, can't you see my best fake friends hanging without me? My BFFs hanging without me. My BFFs, can't you see my best fake friends hanging without me? My BFFs hanging without me. Seriously, I'm tired of all these fake friends. Don't need any one of them. It's just me in the end. I don't need these fake friends. I don't need them. I Don't need these fake friends. Yeah, I'm tired of all these fake friends. Don't need any one of them. It's just me in the end. I don't need these fake friends. Oh, I don't need them.
Michaela Prue with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
Appreciate it. You can find Michaela's music in a number of different places. If you go to Instagram, it is at Michaela Prue, MCKAYLAPREW. Facebook, it is facebook.com/Michaela Prue Music. And you can also find on her Instagram and on her Facebook page a Linktree link that will take you to all the information you need to know about other places you can find her on your favorite music platforms such as Spotify, Pandora, YouTube Music, and more.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Regular season is over. The playoffs are in full swing once again. The Detroit Pistons are on the outside looking in. They will be in the draft lottery again and have a high chance of receiving either a top 3 pick or a top 4 pick, and have the third highest chance of receiving the number 1 overall pick, which would be for the second consecutive year. To talk about the Pistons offseason and where they may be going in the 2022-2023 season, we're pleased to be joined once again by the Pistons beat writer with MLive Media Group, Lauren Williams, on the Michigan Megacast. Lauren, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So the Pistons finished up their 2021-2022 season with a record of 23-59, 14th place in the Eastern Conference, and the third worst record in the NBA. They will have a very high chance at the number 1 overall pick for the second consecutive year. This year, their highest projections are in the 3 to 4 range, but they could fall as low as about 7th in the draft lottery. Should that happen. Regardless, they're going to end up with a high lottery pick. They got a lot of cap space this offseason. So going into the offseason, in your conversations with Dwayne Casey, in your conversations with GM Troy Weaver, and others in the management of the Detroit Pistons, what are their overall goals going into this offseason? What's kind of framing their reference for where this team needs to go in the future?
I think one of the things that really has stuck out to me in talking with Troy Weaver is that he always thinks about the person before the player and making sure that he's finding the right group of people who are going to fit what the Pistons' missions are. I mean, when we spoke to him at his end of season availability last week, he mentioned that, yes, while they're going to be aggressive in, their pursuit of the right free agents, at the end of the day, they want somebody who's going to fit the core values of what the Pistons are trying to do. And that's someone who's a hard worker, someone who's going to dive for loose balls, someone who's going to really put it all out there, just like the group of players that they have had this season. But obviously they want to take it to the next level, so the player has to be talented.
It can be really tough for a team to lose as many games as the Pistons did, almost 60 games, 59 losses this season, to be in many of those games, similar to last season, where they're in many of those games, they're competitive, and they're just coming up short, to miss the playoffs once again. So from the player's perspective, especially with the team being relatively young, not a lot of guys that have been on the roster for a very long time, what are their thoughts coming out of this season and looking forward to the future?
I think they all kind of, except for Cade, I think, they all kind of understood what this year was about. I know Cade mentioned earlier in the season that he wanted to get the team to the playoffs. And, he quickly learned that winning in the NBA is a lot harder than it might have been at the college level or the AAU level or high school or anything like that. So I think a lot of them, want to pick up on the momentum that they kind of built toward the end of the year. They really want to take that kind of winning habits that they started to lock in on toward the end of the season and take it with them into the off season as well as into the future. I really do get the sense that a lot of them are very optimistic about what next year will hold for them. A lot of them are really interested in really kind of stepping up their off season programs, playing pickup basketball, as Killian Hayes mentioned, and kind of playing a little bit more freely to kind of get locked into the mission that they're trying to do.
We're joined by Lauren Williams, beat writer for the Detroit Pistons with MLive Media Group, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. You mentioned Cade Cunningham, first overall pick in last year's NBA draft. This season for the Pistons, 17 points, about 5-6 assists, shooting 31% from the field, and very, very high impact player for the Pistons in just 64 games played. Of course, he had those early season injury issues, and of course the Pistons are not in the playoffs, not even in the play-in, similar to a couple of other players that were in contention or very close to that, and Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley, the other two finalists for the Rookie of the Year. In comparison, 15 points, about 8 rebounds, and 4 assists for Scotty Barnes of the Toronto Raptors, and for Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers. 15 points for him on the year, 8.3 rebounds, and about 3 assists and 2 blocks for Evan Mobley, who is the early favorite at this moment in time to win the Rookie of the Year. And it's been an interesting debate that's popped up in NBA circles and sports circles regarding the Rookie of the Year. You think about Cade Cunningham's play, especially late in the season. High-impact player, numbers that you don't typically see from veteran players that late in the season, especially on a team like the Pistons in this year, versus guys like Evan Mobley, who obviously had high impact on that team. They were in contention for the playoffs. They were in the play-in. Scotty Barnes also helped the Raptors make a big jump this year in their quick rebuild and retooling. So in your opinion, should the team's success play a major role in whether or not a player wins Rookie of the Year, whether or not a player wins MVP, Most Improved Player, or any of these other awards, or should it be based more solely on the performance of that individual player for that individual role it's being awarded for?
In my opinion, if you're awarding individual season awards, it really should come down to what the individual player did. I understand why a lot of people like to take a holistic approach to how they argue why a certain player should win a certain award. But if you're looking at the criteria of who was the best rookie, or who was the most improved player, or who was the defensive player of the year, you really should be looking at the individual and not necessarily the team's record or standing, or whether they had an impact on getting their team to the playoffs. I think if you limit yourself to just looking at players who get their teams to the playoffs, you're going to eliminate a lot of other players from the field. So I really do think it should come down to individual performance. But again, I understand the argument of, looking at a team's record.
And you think about it, too, from the perspective of impact, especially for players that are in the MVP race and the Rookie of the Year race, Most Improved Player. I personally think of it as, what would this team be like without this player? If you have an MVP candidate, how successful would this team be without the MVP for the Rookie of the Year? I think about the Pistons, the Raptors, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Where would they be without the finalists for Rookie of the Year? The Toronto Raptors probably would be in a similar spot, maybe 5-10 losses more than what they did have without a guy like Scotty Barnes. That's a significant impact. That should play a role in this. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, they are on the cusp of a playoff spot. They're in the play-in game. They're probably late lottery without Evan Mobley, especially considering the play of Darius Garland this season, the resurgence of Kevin Love and his new role as a sixth man. Played a big role, and they had a very successful season with and without Evan Mobley on the floor. Then you look at the Detroit Pistons and the impact that Cade Cunningham had. I don't think they get 23 wins. I don't think they get close to that without Cade Cunningham, especially those late season games where teams are really picking it up heading toward the playoffs. I think that should be the main factor in especially the Rookie of the Year, which is, I would say, the least of the impactful metrics in award season for impact of a player on a team. Rookie of the Year is one of those where you really can just look at the bare gameplay of an individual player, and obviously I have some bias here. I think Cade Cunningham should win that award. I'm a Detroit Pistons fan. That's nothing to discount Evan Mobley or Scotty Barnes, but if you look at the team impact, I don't think any one of those three players made a bigger impact on their team this year, or it's going to make a bigger impact on their team in the years to come than Cade Cunningham.
And I think when you think about it too, it's, Evan Mobley had 2 All-Stars that surrounded him, several former All-Stars that surrounded him. Same with Scotty Barnes. He had a couple of All-Stars that, were around him, whereas Cade Cunningham was shouldering a lot of the team leading or the leadership role that this team needed. And that's not to discount the leadership qualities that Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley have, but when you have someone who is the floor general, who impacts the offense on so many different levels, you can look at his plus minus when he's off the floor versus on the floor, and it's a huge difference. So I think that should play a huge role into why he should win the Rookie of the Year. And again, I'm a little bit biased since I cover the team and I watch him almost every single night. But I think that is an important factor. I believe there were 3 and 19 when he wasn't playing, and then they were like 17 and I can't remember the total number off the top of my head right this second, but he played a major role. So I think that should count for a lot more, the leadership qualities that he possessed and the fact that he was a connector with so many different parts of that lineup. I think that should play a role.
We're joined by Lauren Williams, beat writer for the Detroit Pistons with MLive. You can read her articles on mlive.com/Pistons as you follow the Pistons in this 2022 offseason. The draft lottery will play a big impact on that offseason. Free agency, with the amount of cap space they have, will play a big role in this offseason as well. And one of the big questions, we've mentioned this earlier, we talked about this previously when we've had you on the Megacast, is Jeremy Grant. That's a big question mark for the Pistons going into this offseason. Do they move Jeremy Grant? Does he continue to play for the Pistons and play out that last year of his contract where he's making a little bit over $20 million for the Pistons and could continue, presumably, to be their starting power forward? Or even play in a small forward role, depending on who is drafted to this team from the NBA draft. But there are teams that have expressed interest in Jeremy Grant, particularly the one that's getting a lot of discussion in the rumor mill is the Portland Trail Blazers, who had previously allegedly said that they were willing to part with their lottery pick if it would help them in acquiring Jeremy Grant. You put 2 high lottery picks, somewhere around the 7 to 10 range from the Portland Trail Blazers and the 1 to 7 range for the Detroit Pistons. That is a huge accelerant to your rebuild. That changes all your strategy. So for the Pistons, at this moment in time, from your discussions with the front office and with those internally in the front office of the Detroit Pistons, what is their interest level in potentially moving Jeremy Grant, or what would they really be looking for to make a trade of one of those key guys in their locker room?
I think they're going to exhaust all of their options. Troy Weaver kind of alluded to it again at the end of his his end of season availability that, he didn't expect that they were going to get a lot of phone calls, but you can expect him to at least answer the phone call and listen to what people have to say. I think if there's the option to have another lottery pick added, then, he might explore that option. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to make sure that he's doing what he can to find the right fits for this team. And if he decides that Jeremy long-term is the right fit for this team, then that's the option that they're going to go with.
Yeah, I think that the draft lottery plays the biggest role in that, because if the Pistons have a top 3 pick, you're getting an impact player that, especially if you're number 1 or number 1 through 3, you're going to get an impact player. Those presumable top 3 picks are all big men, 2 power forwards, 1 center. A couple of them can play either power forward or center, and guys like Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr., Paolo Banchero from Duke as well. That could be a big impact. All of a sudden, you have your power forward of the future, your big 3, 4, 5 player of the future, and maybe Jeremy Grant isn't necessarily a big part of that. You can think about moving him, especially if a team's offering you another first-round pick. Then again, I think the more likely scenario where they would explore that would be if they fall in the draft lottery. All of a sudden, you're out of that place where you got 3 guys that are really considered to be almost sure things, as much as you can have a sure thing in any draft class in a position of need. Now you have a little bit more of a question mark there? Do you take a shooting guard? Do you reach a little bit for another big man? 2 lottery picks in that position really help you in developing your team into the future without necessarily being married to this guy's got to be our power forward of the future. This guy's got to be our 2 guard or our point guard of the future. I think that's going to have the biggest impact on the Jeremy Grant decision. For the Pistons in the lottery, we talk about those 3 guys, Jabari Smith Jr., Paolo Banchero, and Chet Holmgren, who's considered to be the top player in this draft. Of those 3, in your opinion, who do you believe would be the best fit for this Pistons team?
Personally, I think it's so tough because I like all of them. I know one of the biggest question marks when it came to Paolo was whether he'd be a defensive fit. But when you have guys like Cade Cunningham, Sadiq, and even Isaiah Stewart, who would be kind of paired alongside him, that would kind of help to bring him along and kind of fill in the blanks where his defensive weaknesses kind of show. And as he gets older, he's going to continue developing those skills. And Dwayne Casey is a defensive-minded coach. So this might be the best environment for him if you're trying to develop that side of his game. Now, we like Jabari Smith just because we see that he's been a proven shooter. The Pistons need scoring. I mean, Troy Weaver kind of joked about it a little bit. He doesn't care how it gets into the hoop, whether it's a 3, whether it's a 2, whether it's a free throw. He just wants somebody who can get the ball in the basket. And then with Chet, he's what they call the unicorn, right? He has so many different instinctive plays that he's made with Gonzaga, as one of their best rim protectors. And if you pair him alongside with Isaiah Stewart can kind of mask that strength question that a lot of people have when it comes to Chet. And as he gets older and kind of develops that man strength, as people might say, he's going to be a problem, as a lot of people like to say colloquially, in the league. So it's a really tough choice. I think either of those 3 guys would be a great fit alongside the team. I think one of the big things is when they fall out of the top 3 is, who do they take? And they have to be careful with that choice just because they want to make sure that they don't take the ball completely out of Cade Cunningham's hands.
And I think that the 3 guys that are really considered to be at the top of this draft class, should the Pistons get into the top 3, have a chance at one of these guys, maybe even in the top 4 if one of them falls out, let's say. Then you have a question. You mentioned the potential pairing of a guy like Chet Holmgren with Isaiah Stewart, and how Holmgren's what he lacks on the defensive side of the ball and what he lacks in physicality could maybe be made up for, particularly in the post, with Isaiah Stewart. I think that really comes down to a question for the Pistons. Where do they see Isaiah Stewart fitting into the fold in the future? Is he their starting center? We know he's undersized. He's a physical dynamo. He's a great rebounder and excellent defender. But where does he fit in the future of this Pistons starting lineup in particular? Or is he a interior booster on the bench in that second unit? Could he be that kind of spark plug off the bench in the post defensively? I think that's a big question for the Pistons. Where do they see Isaiah Stewart? Is he their center of the future, or is he their center for now and then a guy that can be a really solid depth guy down the line?
I think you see him as a guy of the future. I mean, they traded up to get the 16th pick to get him. I think Troy Weaver sees a lot of value, especially because he's a guy that can eventually shoot the ball. I know he didn't take as many 3-pointer shots, in the beginning of the year, just because Dwayne Casey really wanted him to focus on his bread and butter, which was rebounding and setting those screens. And we really saw him come into his own with that, especially freeing up space for Cade and some of the other guards to get to the basket. Now, I think that with Chet, again, he's going to be paired with very, very strong guys on the floor, with Cade, with Sadiq, with Isaiah. So I think you're going to have a lot of flexibility with Isaiah Stewart on the roster, just because you can move him up or you can move him down. I mean, same with Marvin Bagley. They also have him that they have to think about, and whether or not they're going to tender an offer to him. So, I think that what this Pistons roster really values is versatility. And with all of those guys, that's what they're going to get.
Do you think the Pistons are going to make that big splash in free agency this offseason? I know we talked about it previously that it's seeing, and you had said previously you think it's one more year of kind of really bolstering that depth and then getting to that big splash. But with the cap space the Pistons have, with some of the available positions that have really talented players in the free agency pool for this offseason, guys I think of immediately are Deandre Ayton. We've heard a lot about Miles Bridges, which I kind of wave off because we have Sadiq Bey here. Miles Bridges is a 3. You're going to presumably be able to draft a high-caliber 4 if you're in the top 3 in this draft lottery. The guy that would make the most sense if you're going to make that big splash is Deandre Ayton, who, by the way, is a restricted free agent. So Phoenix, surging right now, #1 record in the NBA, playing great basketball in the playoffs. They may want to bring him back and continue on the surge, and they may be willing to fork over that max contract that they've previously said they're not really interested in providing, or have not shown any interest in providing to Deandre Ayton. So for the Pistons, if they have a guy like Ayton who is available, they could maybe snag away from Phoenix with a contract that the Suns would see as unfavorable, or another big-time free agent out there that could be that next big catalyst for the next step in the rebuild. Do you think this is the offseason that the Pistons take that, or are they going to be a little more cautious and continue that slow burn of a build one more year, and then next offseason would be that surge point?
You know, I have a hard time seeing Phoenix actually parting ways with Deandre Ayton. Just as you mentioned, they're making that surge. They're the top team in the West right now. They're one of the top teams in the NBA in general. So I have a really hard time seeing them parting ways. But again, it all depends on what happens in the draft, right? And what they decide the direction is that they're going to go. Chris Paul isn't getting any younger, and he's still, really trying to go after that ring. And the fact that he has kind of fast-tracked that process of getting them into the top position in the league to make a couple of finals runs is a big thing. So I can't see them parting ways with Ayton unless something huge happens that changes his mind, or he just really wants to get out or anything like that. Now, I can't, even though the Pistons have said that they're going to be, particularly Troy Weaver has said that he's going to be aggressive in terms of, turning over every stone in free agency, I don't think this is the year that we see the huge splash. I think they have a lot of free agents who have team options this year, and, a couple of free agents that have player options. So I think, we're going to see a little bit more of a slow burn, just this one more year, and maybe next year is the year that they make that splashy signing, just because, again, this is still about development. They're still going to get some young players in, and the front office is really going to want to have that variety of age, experience, and youth on the roster.
Lauren, really early on in the offseason, but there's always a story, especially with a rebuilding team like the Pistons that are really close to making that next big jump and potentially next year being in contention for a playoff spot, that 7th, 8th, maybe 6th seed in the playoffs next year. If they play their cards right and the development goes right over this offseason and next season. Any stories at this moment in time as we're entering the offseason, as we're in the thick of playoff time, that you're following regarding the Pistons?
I think the big thing is just the draft and free agency. I think a lot of people have their eyes on that just because they do want to see the team get to the next level, And, Troy Weaver has said he's never going to put a cap on what this rebuild means. He's thinking long term, not just one and done, we make the finals and that's it, or we get to the championship and that's it. He wants to create a sustainable winning franchise. And to him, that means just kind of taking your time and making sure that you're making the right choices as possible. So one name that I think has caught a lot of people's attention is James Edwards actually reported that the Pistons are interested in Jalen Brunson. So I think that's one person that we should keep an eye on as the playoffs continue. And he's with the Dallas Mavericks, and now the series is tied up at 1-1 with the Utah Jazz. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he and Luka continue to kind of push that team forward and see where they end up as the playoffs unfold.
Yeah, quite a way to solve that point guard question there in the starting lineup for the Pistons, and put Killian Hayes potentially in that point guard spot off the bench where he seemed to thrive at the end of the season. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Now is the founder and the web design specialist at WebDroid LLC, Joshua Ashford. Joshua, thanks for joining us today.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on the show. So you are a 2021 graduate of Techtown, Detroit's retail boot camp. Can you tell our viewers about what Techtown's Detroit Retail Boot Camp is and how that has helped you in developing WebDroid?
Sure. So again, thank you for having me. I did participate in Techtown's 2021 cohort, the retail boot camp. I ended up winning the cohort for my idea that was based in esports and technology. So the cohort is pretty much an 8 to 12 week incubator where you compete with other business owners in the city of Detroit. And at the end, you have a pitch competition. And you compete for a $5,000 grand prize, which I ended up winning for my new initiative based around esports.
So yeah, you were one of 6 RBC graduates to be awarded that Kickstart Award for WebDroid. Can you tell us about WebDroid, which is the business that you began with that Kickstart from RBC and that award? Tell us about your business and what inspired you to build WebDroid.
Sure. Thanks for that question. So WebDroid began in 2018 as a web development firm. I work in technology, and I started to work with other small businesses in and around the city of Detroit to build websites for them. That led me down a coding instructor path that I ended up exploring with working within the different DPS school systems. And that led me to be exposed to a lot of the young people here in Detroit. And I was able to pick their brain. I was able to mentor them and teach them how to code. And that ended up leading me down a path where I asked them one day, I said, hey, what do you guys do, when you aren't, in school and whatnot, when you guys go home and these sorts of things? What are some of your hobbies? And he said, when we go home, we game. We sit on the computer or we play video games. And I said, for us to try to get them into all of these tech adjacent programs that we're running right now, we want to meet them where they are. Right. And meeting them where they are looks like esports. So that's where the idea came from. That was the inspiration for it. It's really a community-based initiative to engage the young people of Detroit in what they already enjoy doing. Especially during the pandemic, e-commerce became a big buzzword as people were buying gifts during the holiday season or even doing their grocery shopping online or other forms of shopping. And then for those participating in esports as well, especially as esports institutions, specific teams, even college teams and professional teams were coming into the fold as well. That creates a different set of needs for websites and for web development and for web services. How do those needs differ from maybe a more standard or not so much standard, but more old school run-of-the-mill business, different from this that's entirely based in interconnectivity and in the web? Exactly. Well, like you just mentioned, it's really 2 different aspects, right? And what you just mentioned was significant because we saw a lot of pivots happening during the pandemic, right? We saw a lot of huge organizations go virtual, completely virtual. We saw a lot of organizations and restaurants, go out of business, right? Because they weren't able to necessarily pivot in these sorts of things. So you're completely right when you say, the digital aspect of running a business versus the in-person aspect are really two separate things, but they both lend towards, that business's identity. For the young people, they are interested in coding. Technology is a really, really emerging industry that has a lot of potential for, future development and, longevity. But another tech adjacent industry is esports, with over 370 million players and watchers worldwide. It's only growing, right? And it's going to continue to grow. They're speaking about having esports be a part of the Olympics in 2024, right? It was supposed to be a part of it this past Olympics in 2020, so it's just growing, and being able to bring that to the forefront in a program type of aspect and compartmentalize it so that more young people can be a part of it is really what I'm passionate about.
We're joined by Joshua Ashford, the founder and web specialist at WebDroid, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, webdroid.online. That is webdroid.online for more information. How did you come up with the name for your business? Why WebDroid?
WebDroid, I'm a sci-fi geek. I love sci-fi. That's my whole thing. I'm a movie buff. My whole family's always been into movies. And when I started the firm, again, it was based originally in app development, web design. So I said, hey, I want to make sure that, people can know the title just from namesake. So I want website, web something to be incorporated. And I was watching Star Wars one day and said, that droid's kind of cool. Maybe I should incorporate some type of droid aspect into it, and a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you just kind of combine them, like a web droid kind of thing. And I said, I think I'll go with that. Didn't spend too much, didn't second guess it too much. I went with it and I've been running with it ever since.
Joshua Ashford is joining us on the Michigan Megacast, the founder and web design specialist at WebDroid LLC, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. Their website, again, webdroid.online. That's webdroid.online. And in addition to working with esports teams and with e-commerce businesses, you also do a lot of work with the Boys and Girls Club. Can you tell us about your involvement with that organization and how your business assists in that organization's work in the community?
Sure. So again, thank you for the question. The Boys and Girls Clubs have been pivotal to me being able to roll out this program. They actually invested in the program for us to pilot it at their locations. The Boys and Girls Clubs have 5 locations in the Metro Detroit area, and we're piloting our esports program at each location. It will be at each location by the end of the year. Currently, we have it at 3 locations. That's the Doubt campus. That's on 16500 Tyreman Street on the west side of Detroit. It's also at the Deal location, which is at 4242 Collingwood. That's also on the west side of Detroit, and at the Auburn Hills location. They have been amazing partners working with other organizations such as the Children's Foundation to help us build this coalition out, the Detroit Red Wings, Ninja. If you all are familiar with esports, Ninja is one of the most popular esports gamers in the world. He actually just opened another laboratory with us about a week ago, actually in Auburn Hills. So again, they've just been amazing partners, picking up this idea and helping me to pilot it within their facilities. It's been invaluable.
We're joined by Joshua Ashford, the founder and web design specialist at WebDroid LLC, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. Their website, webdroid.online. That's webdroid.online. And so for businesses that maybe have more of those traditional outlets for operating their business, especially in the retail realm, those with those mom and pop stores, what are some of the ways that your business can help them modernize their sales, modernize their outreach through the web?
Yeah, definitely. So within WebDroid, we have 2 aspects of the business. Again, more recently, we've been venturing into esports, but the core of WebDroid really was based in web design and app development. I mentioned I had taught in DPS for about 3 years, teaching coding to high school students and young people alike. And some of them have come aboard and actually work with me to develop these websites. So there is a development team aspect to WebDroid. We help companies, we specialize in e-commerce development, right? So we kind of spoke about this a little bit earlier, but different payment gateways to incorporate into your business, making your website work for you, automating different tasks, menial tasks that, you know, the business owner would do on a day-to-day basis, automating that out so that you can have more time in your business is what WebDroid and the development team here will help you to do.
We're joined by Joshua Ashford, the founder and web design specialist at WebDroid LLC, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. So tell us some of the success stories of businesses, of organizations that you've worked with, and how your business has helped them increase their online output through e-commerce, through modernizing their website, and through other technological aspects that maybe they wouldn't have had any knowledge of even had they not consulted with your company.
Sure. So, you know, when I started working with a client, one client comes to mind where I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm a tech entrepreneur, so I'm always pitching. I pitched a client who became a longstanding client of mine. I've been working with her for the past 4 years. And when I started working with them, they had no online presence, very little, I would say, no website, an Instagram page, but no other social media outlets. But they had a very, very hardcore local following. They had actually been a business that were around for over 20 years at that point, and they had just never had the correct developer come along that they were able to work with that could help them grow and scale their business. When I pitched to them, we ended up deciding that, hey, we wanted to have a longstanding relationship working or moving forward. And that allowed me to be able to expose them to a larger market, help them grow their audience by over 60,000 impressions in the first year alone. And now they have an e-commerce platform that's been developed by WebDroid that helps them to sell, maintain, and scale their business. They're actually going to open another location in the Midwest here based upon the success that they've had just from the website alone. Again, that's just the website. There's also 3D technologies that I use, like VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, that allow the users to engage with the business on a more immersive level. So we incorporate that technology as well.
So how do those technologies then help the business better promote itself, either its services or if it's retail, its products, to customers that may have access to those sorts of technologies?
Sure. So, you know, we want to make sure that these technologies that are now becoming more and more accessible are easy to engage with, right? We don't want to lose people as we expose them to VR, AR, because, you know, we all do it, but when something's too tough, you know, the patron won't, or the shopper won't do anything at all, right? If sometimes it is called cognitive overload, right? Having too many options or having too many things jumping out at you at once. We like to use VR and AR technologies and 3D models to display different types of items that the business would normally sell. So say we're selling t-shirts, right? We can make a 3D model of said t-shirt, incorporate that into the website, make it interactable so that the user can zoom in, zoom out, rotate the 3D model at will, and say, hey, you know what, this is actually a product that I want to buy. I was able to engage with it on a more immersive level. Now I have a better idea of what I'll be getting in the mail, so on and so forth. You know, we also use 3D models for logos, the business's logo, for marketing purposes. Again, just, you know, kind of like a cool thing. We have some mobile applications that we've developed before in the past. So it's many different ways that you can use these technologies for a business's benefit.
Joshua, anything else about WebDroid that we haven't talked about yet today that would be important or interesting for our audience to know before we say goodbye?
Yes, I would just like to say, if you are a young person in Detroit, WebDroid is working on your behalf to have you guys learn more immersive skills, be able to program in a more applicable way, learn these emerging coding technologies and game with your friends in a facility that will be available to us soon. I'm going to be a part of a series of pitch competitions coming up, being Hatch Detroit and Demo Day, and I can use all of you guys' support. You can reach us online and support us at www.webdroid.online/esports. And you can sign up for the email list there. We have some more content that will be coming out in the coming weeks on how you can support us and follow us along our journey.
Joshua, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you did. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners, working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is the source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. To learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV, otherwise known as My Mind. Joining us now on the Megacast are Maureen Mansfield and Mark Boyd from the Farmington Players, whose production of Deathtrap begins on May 6th. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate you both
Mark,
coming on. So, Maureen,
Maureen.
you are the director of this production of Deathtrap. It begins on May 6th, runs through the 21st at the Farmington Players. Tickets have already been on sale. They've been on sale since February. So for those that may be interested in seeing the show this summer at the Farmington Players, tell us what Deathtrap is all about.
Well, Deathtrap is billed as a comedic thriller. It's written by Ira Levin, who has written some blockbusters like Rosemary's Baby and The Stepford Wives, so he is a very prolific author. It's about one successful Broadway playwright, Sidney Brule, who Mark plays, who's struggling to overcome a dry spell that's resulted in the string of flops, and it's left him financially in trouble, or so he thinks. A workshop student, Clifford Anderson, sends him this brilliant new script that has blockbuster potential. So he and his wife, Myra, have this discussion about stealing the script. And I really don't want to give you any more information because it's going to spoil the show. And there are so many twists and turns and surprises in the show that you really have to come see it to see what happens. I can tell you there's a couple of other wonderful characters. There's a psychic. There's an attorney who is not who he appears to be. The set alone is worth the price of a ticket. It's amazing. There are weapons galore, and these are real weapons. They're a little scary to handle, but we rented them from a company called Ring of Steel out of Ann Arbor. And they're all over the set. The set really is one of the most phenomenal sets I've ever had the pleasure of directing on.
It's pretty nice, yeah. I think it's beautiful.
And so, Mark, we're also joined by Mark Boyd, who is acting in this production. He's playing, as Maureen said, Sidney Brule in this production of Deathtrap. Can you tell us about Sidney, about this character, and what drew you to Sidney as somebody that you could play in this production or would be interested in playing in the theater?
I was the right age. No, I'm kidding. The main thing is I just loved the entire script. I had never read it before the auditions, and I was so surprised at how many turns that it took, unexpected turns that were just enjoyable to see, and the fact that just about everyone in the play is not who they seem, or I guess 3/5 of the play is not who they seem. It's interesting to play a character like that has something up their sleeve that they're not divulging to anyone, and then you find out later what that was about. So it's just a fascinating study of deceit, I think.
More information is on their website, farmingtonplayers.org. You can learn more about Deathtrap, purchase tickets as well. Again, that's farmingtonplayers.org. You can also email boxoffice@farmingtonplayers.org or call 248-553-2955 for tickets and more information. 248-553-2955 to purchase tickets and learn more information. So there's also a movie of the same title called Deathtrap. That's same storyline, same script. It includes Michael Caine, Christopher Reeve, and Dylan Cannon. It's a lot different to perform a story for the stage than it is for film or for other mediums as well. And so, Maureen, as you're preparing this play and directing this play, going through the blocking, coaching the actors, preparing this show for that environment at the Farmington Players, did you take any inspiration from the movie, or is this entirely just fresh ideas based on the script that's in front of you?
Yeah, I didn't take any ideas from the movie. Honestly, the movie, I don't think did a great job of telling Ira Levin's story. They tried to be things that the script wasn't, as so often happens when you try to translate something to the big screen. There's really only a few movies I think that did a good job of it. And maybe I'm just being a theater person, but I really think the script belongs on the stage in a one room, setting 2 acts, 3 scenes, the way Ira Levin wrote it.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's a much different approach too. I mean, as an actor, you try not to look at other prior performances. I think just come up with your own ideas, make it your own. So I'm going from the script, and it's a different approach. Also, just the fact that it's a different medium. You're on a stage, on a live stage with a live audience, as opposed to in front of a camera. I've done a lot of independent and otherwise movies and TV, and that's a different thing to have that camera right in your face, as opposed to the broader production where you see the action as though you're in the same room.
Especially for a comedy, and for a comedy that's on the stage, because stage acting has to be so much more inflated. You are acting for the people in the front row, and you're acting for the people that are as far back in the corner of the seating as possible in the house on every single show, and every single show is going to be different based on your fellow actors and based on anything that can and may go wrong that you're adjusting for in the whole process. So it's very different between acting in a movie setting where you have multiple takes versus a live stage play, which is live. You are moving through with whatever you have in that moment. And then just from an acting standpoint, it's very different also. And Mark, you have a background in stand-up comedy as well. So acting in a comedic stage play, especially when it's mixing in, as Maureen said, the element of a thriller also. How does that, as an actor for you, challenge you, and how do you overcome those challenges to play the character of Sidney Brule effectively in this production?
Well, it is interesting. You mentioned the stand-up comedy, and since that's in front of a live audience, that's about the only similarity, just because it is also yet a different type of performance, where I guess it just makes me as an actor more comfortable if I'm in front of a live audience, just because I did that so much. But it's as opposed to speaking to the individuals in the audience, or even as them as a group, we are acting as though we are in a scene in a movie, because we're talking to each other, listening and reacting to each other. And I think I forgot your question already. So
we're joined by Mark Boyd. We're also joined by Maureen Mansfield, the director of Deathtrap with the Farmington Players. More information on the website, farmingtonplayers.org. You can also email boxoffice@farmingtonplayers.org or call 248-553-2955 for more information about the Farmington Players, about Deathtrap, and other productions coming up as well. And so, Maureen, as the Farmington Players are looking for the next production, and they're deciding on a show, and they're getting in preparation to hold auditions and build a cast and build a crew and begin preparations for the actual show itself, how did Deathtrap come up as a choice for the Farmington Players to put on as a early summer production here in early May, which begins May 6th? It's an interesting production because it's a comedy, but it's also a thriller. It has elements, you mentioned some of the weapons that come into play in the production. So it's a really interesting production for any size of a theater, but especially a theater troupe with the size of the Farmington Players.
Well, it was actually supposed to go up in fall of 2020.
Oh, wow.
But of course, COVID shut the world down. And
I thought you put it off just to make sure I was available.
That was our number one concern. COVID was number 2.
Oh, okay.
But when we were choosing our slate to come back with, we were very conservative. And we decided to choose small cast shows to keep the risk of COVID down and to also keep our costs down. A lot of larger cast shows come with larger royalties, larger budgets. And normally we do a musical in the spring, and we decided against it again to be conservative with our finances. And Deathtrap just fit perfectly in that slot. It has name recognition. It's something that we feel our patrons will come and see. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great show.
And let's lastly, Mark, before we let the two of you go today, I have to say goodbye for the program. What is your favorite part about this production? What makes this production of Deathtrap enjoyable for you as an actor and as a performer?
I kind of alluded to it earlier. It's the surprises, and it's the twists and turns that they take. It's the layers of the character that are not known for and they kind of get exposed as we go through the show. So it's an interesting ride, I think. So I hope it is anyway.
If I may say one more thing.
Sure.
As you can tell, Mark is a very accomplished actor. He is not the only one. Everybody else in this cast is just as accomplished as Mark is. It's probably the most accomplished and experienced cast I have ever had the pleasure of directing. These, they almost direct themselves. It has truly been a pleasure and an ease putting the show up. Come see it. If you don't, you're missing something special.
I would agree. I've enjoyed working with everyone, and you as well, Maureen. Everybody seems to work together very easily as a team, and everybody does a great job. I've been very pleased.
You can see Deathtrap through the Farmington Players May 6th through 21st at the Farmington Players location on 12 Mile in Farmington Hills. More information on the website, farmingtonplayers.org, or call 248-553-2955 for ticket information. Maureen, Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Oakland County and Michigan Megacasts. You can view our full episodes and each individual interview, including our interview with Maureen and Mark, on our website sometime mid to late afternoon, usually is when those are posted, and populate our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also be able to learn more information about all of our partnering community television and radio stations in the Oakland County area and other outlets all throughout the state, including My Michigan TV at mymytv.com, by visiting our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. Also, highly encourage you to go to our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus to stay up to date on everything you need to know about COVID-19 at the federal level from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, at the state level from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and locally in Oakland County, where we originate our broadcast from the Oakland County Health Division. civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we also bring you our top headlines making news all across the state about COVID-19 and other stories all across the Great Lakes state. civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Big thank you to everyone that joined us on today's edition of the program. Maureen Mansfield and Mark Boyd from the Farmington Players, who joined us just a few moments ago. Josh Ashford from WebDroid LLC. Lauren Williams, Pistons beat writer with MLive. Singer-songwriter Michaela Prue, and both Angela Beckman and Tanya Adair from the United Way for Southeast Michigan. A big thank you to our crew as well that makes this program possible. Our technical director, Calvin Brown. Our Zoom producer, Jared Clark, at the offices of My Michigan TV in Troy, Michigan. Larry Nyland, the king of television, our producer, and Maddie Mushkin out at Master Control, helping us on and off the air each and every day. On My Michigan TV, Steve Leto Live is coming up next, and then followed by Larry and Maddie Live at 1 o'clock. We will return Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.